Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of From Leadership to Legacy. So excited to be here with you all today. I'm Antoine Butler. This is Marcus Pierre, and we are super excited about what we're going to talk to you all about today. Listen, our vision is to help people just like you, right? It's to help people come into the fullness of their potential and responsibility as a leader, and we want to thank you all for being our community. We got some exciting information to share with you all today on a topic that you probably have heard before, but maybe not even defined. But we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, right? So I want you to get your pens. I want y'all to get your papers and write this information down. I think that it's going to be super impactful. So emotional intelligence, right? What the heck is that?
Yeah.
So we're talking about emotional intelligence. When we say those two words, Marcus, what do you think about it off the top of your head?
I think, off the top of my head, I think the ability for one to know how to govern themselves, to understand why they do what they do, and how to protect themselves from themselves.
Ooh. Yeah. That's so interesting. You said that. You know, in the field of social work, we have our code of ethics. And early on, I used to think our code of ethics was to protect the community from us. But at the end of the code of ethics for social workers, they'll tell you the code of ethics they put in to protect the community from us.
Wow.
Right, so that just made me think about that.
Yeah. And as a leader, I think it's important because as you're leading, there's going to be times that you're going to get probably frustrated. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be angry about some things, but that can't control how you do things because feelings are fickle.
Yeah.
1 minute you up, next minute you down. But as a leader, you have to be able to have emotional intelligence to know how to respond to people, to know how to even respond to yourself, you know, to even know what your triggers are.
Yeah.
So I think last episode when we talked about pivoting in the process, emotional intelligence helps you to effectively do that because, you know, you're not moving based off of just how the market moves or based off the changes. We're pivoting from a pandemic. So as a leader, it's important that you're aware of yourself, but also how to govern what you have been given the responsibility to govern.
Yeah, we're going to share some valuable nuggets, but I think what you just shared is probably the most valuable one. We have to really know ourselves, right? So our emotional intelligence doesn't start outward. It's not necessarily about, we'll talk about that in a second, about how we perceive people first, but it's how well do we know ourselves, right? And how well, and I like the word that you used earlier, govern. How well do we govern ourselves? So let's just share a few points with you all, because we want to give you some information as a leader. One, to Marcus talked about it earlier, to be able to know yourself, govern yourself, because leaders, that's your number one responsibility, you know, to track your movement, your behavior, right? And then two, doing that with other people. So let's just talk about, I think, a few nuggets that I think would be beneficial to you all. So number one, and Marcus talked about the importance of self, right? People who have high emotional intelligence, because you can have low emotional intelligence, where you just really don't know yourself and don't know your behaviors, your triggers, and people know you as a volatile and out of control person, and we have people like that. But one is, I know myself emotionally. Like, I know myself emotionally. This is gonna sound base level, but it's so important, right? Do you know the things that trigger your main emotions, right? Do you know the things that trigger your joy? Do you know the things that trigger your happiness? Do you know the things that trigger your anger? Do you know the things that trigger your resentment? Do you know them well enough to not just know them, but to also manage them? People who have high emotional intelligence know their feelings and their emotions, and they know how to manage them. And so what do you mean manage? Our emotions are like the check engine light in your vehicle. They just signal to you that something's wrong, but they don't, they're not your navigation system. They're not your GPS. They don't set the coordinates for the direction of your life, right? So even though my feelings may indicate something is wrong, right, I'm not gonna let it chart the course of my life. And I've seen people lose their family, lose their finances, and lose their focus, Marcus, because they let their feelings take the driver's seat.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate because we've talked about it when it comes down to character. When there's a problem with that, innocent people suffer. And as leaders, it's so important that you're aware of what triggers you.
Yeah.
And not just from a negative standpoint. As you were talking, Antoine, you talked about your joy, what energizes you, what pushes you forward. Emotional intelligence is about understanding that, but putting yourself in the right environment. Keeping safeguards in place, because we are all one trigger away from possibly damaging what we have built. Like you said, families, community, church, whatever you're in a position of leadership in doing. If you allow a situation to cause you to lose your sense of wherewithal, you make a decision, you do something that is outside of the course in which you're going, now you have to try to rebuild. Now you have to be in a situation where you're apologizing, you're trying to have to do a course correct. But a person with high emotional intelligence will feel that, but continue to operate according to the values. Because you mentioned earlier about identity. A person with high awareness is aware of themselves. You know who you are, you know what you want to accomplish, and you know what you don't want to do.
I like that.
I think it's important. I think emotional intelligence is, if anything, the driving force behind your success or your demise.
Yeah. Speak to that real quick, Pastor. You said values. I don't want us to jump over what you just said. I think that was important. What do you mean when you say our values?
Well, I believe that's the foundation, and that's why you do what you do. A lot of times we try to immediately tackle a behavior, but your behavior is just an indication of an identity or value problem. And a lot of times, we'll try to say, well, if I got a problem getting up early in the morning, I put an alarm clock. That alarm clock is not going to dictate what you do, because you can easily hit the snooze button.
Right.
But your value, your identity in what you, or why you're doing it, will cause you to do what you need to do. So as leaders, I think it's important that we identify our values and we live according to those things. You mentioned earlier, manage. You have to manage those emotions, because your emotions are going to cause you to say, I don't want to do this. Or it's going to cause you to say, you know what, I don't feel like having this conversation. But as a leader, one of the things that I know is important, Antoine, is you might feel that way. But as a leader, you do what is according to your values, even when you don't feel like doing it.
I love what you just said. And I love you teaching us the importance of making that the foundation. Because I think when we do that, it guards against compromising. Right? When things get tough and you are prone to make a decision that may not be right or in line with your goals and stuff, your value system is going to keep you grounded, right? And I think it keeps you from being callous and cold as well, because those things, your value system, is where your energy and your passion flow from. So I love that. And I want to unapologetically say that our value system is rooted in the Word of God.
Come on now.
It's rooted in the Word of God. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I want to piggyback off what you said. And we were talking about monogamy and the importance of being in a relationship, and I've been married 16 years, and they're like, where do you find your success at? And I didn't think about it this way until you said that, but it's in my value system. Like, my values is rooted in the Word of God, and my value system believes in marriage without divorce. So when I said yes to my wife, I said no to everybody else. So when all the pressure and stress and the flirting and all that stuff comes, I'm rooted in my value system. So I wanted to bring that up. I'm glad you mentioned that.
And you said something, as you said, is rooted in your value system. That is something that, as a leader, you must have in place. It's not something that I think I value this, or this is, like, you need to be able to say, this is what I value, because those things are going to come. And with emotional intelligence is self-management. Like, you have to be able to manage yourself
in the moment.
Not later on and you reflect on it like, I should have done that. But in the moment, when the pressure is on you, you have to be able to make the right decision. And that's high emotional intelligence. But it's something that you must do to get to that place. You must really know yourself to grow yourself. Because in those areas where you're not consistent,
know yourself to grow yourself.
You have to be able to find out, why am I not consistent? Like, what's going on? And as you're growing in that, your emotional intelligence, so when you're pressed, you can be able to be a person of character to say, you know what, I'm still going to do what I committed to do before this feeling came.
I love that. Know yourself to grow yourself. You kept yourself in preparation mode.
Preparation,
right? Because
self-management,
right?
You can't wait to get ready,
right?
You know, you have to be prepared, because when that flirt or whatever, that willingness to cut corners here, and you got an opportunity to make some extra money under the table, that's not right. As a leader, you got to be willing to say, well, I can make this decision, but what is the consequence of it? You got to be able to have that conversation within yourself, because at that moment, if you make the wrong decision, innocent people are going to suffer.
I love that. And you mention that all the time, and I think that's so important to people who are affected by our decisions. Now, I heard you say it is more about prevention than reaction.
Yes.
Right? And I love that. We've talked about managing ourselves, and we do understand that an important part of emotional intelligence is also being able to manage the emotions of others. I want to speak to that really quickly. I want you all to think about this and write this down. I think leaders not only know how to manage their emotions, but they know how to respond to the emotions of other people. I think one key component of managing the emotions of other people as leaders is really developing empathy.
Yes.
I didn't say sympathy. There's a difference. Sympathy is feeling sorry for people, and that has an appropriate place. That's at a funeral. But empathy is the ability to place yourself in somebody else's shoes, right? So that you can have some point of reference for what they're going through. Now, I know people automatically think, Marcus, they say, well, I can't empathize with everybody because maybe somebody's lost their mother. I still got my mother. You know, so if I haven't been through your situation, I can't help. That's not true, right?
Absolutely.
Because there are key, universal, moral fabrics of our soul that we can all identify with. You may not have lost your mother, but you know what loss feels like. We can identify with that. Mm-hmm. You may not have been in the same financial situation before, but you know what anger and resentment feels like. You know what peace feels like. You know what joy feels like, and we can always identify on that level. So great leaders who have high emotional intelligence can identify with the feelings of other people because they place themselves in that person's shoes, and they can manage other people's feelings. In other words, they don't take advantage of other people's feelings.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's the essence of servant leadership.
It is.
You know, you're serving the person that you're actually leading. Yeah. And that's something where you have to take a step back and to express that you care. You know, it's so important when people are coming to you, even if it's a tough conversation that you're having regarding the business. The numbers don't look right. Your business is not moving in the direction that you want it to move. That's still a person that you're talking to. And God's resource is people. Yeah. And you have to be able to understand that. Yes. So sometimes people go, I don't need this, or I don't. Yeah. We need to understand that people, it's the main commodity of us accomplishing our vision. I've heard people say this before: if you want to go fast, go by yourself. Yeah. But if you want to go long, you need to go with other people. And I think leadership is about, when you say empathy, it's about understanding. When I'm talking to a person, yes, they might not have met the quota. Yes, they might not have done everything right, but that's still God's child, and that's still a person, and you can approach them in that way, and your emotional intelligence is going to help you do that, because you might be disappointed as a leader, upset because the numbers don't look right. But emotional intelligence, how can I work with this person? How can I help this person to accomplish what we have both agreed to accomplish? And sometimes as leadership, that goes out of the window. When you sit down talking with somebody, so important. Your family. Yes, I know the child might not be doing what they're supposed to do. Yes, I know spouse might be frustrating you. But as a leader, you have to be able to understand that it's important that I myself is being managed and governed in a way to produce what I hope to see in other people. Yeah. That's huge when it comes down to leadership. Yeah. Yeah. Say that one more time. I can't say it again. But as a leader, I think it's important that we're sowing the seeds in what we hope to see in other people. Love, care, transparency, honesty, trust, consistency. You cannot get positive from a person that you're treating them negatively.
Yeah.
But the way that starts is with you. You got to start with the person in the mirror.
Yeah, yeah. And I asked you to say that again because that was so impactful, because I think that's what we're saying. And that's what we're believing for. What we want to see in other people, right? We got to see it in ourselves first, right? And hopefully what we see in ourselves that we can impart into other people. You can't give people what you don't have.
That's
but
powerful.
I do need to know and deal and learn to manage me. I'm my number one resource, right? And once I've gotten me together, then I can help other people. Listen, I know we're winding down. We only have about a minute left. I'm gonna turn it back over to Marcus to close us out. But listen, I want y'all to know, I know we're gonna have to do multiple sessions of this. I hope that it's been beneficial to you all. But if I can't emphasize anything else, listen, in this season, get to know yourself, right? Get to know yourself. Take inventory on yourself. You are your greatest resource.
Absolutely. And to end this conversation, take the necessary steps to get to know yourself. Ask the people around you.
That's great.
Talk to people that you trust about maybe some areas that they might have noticed where you're not as sharp. I don't like the word weakness, your undeveloped strengths. But take the steps that's necessary, because as a leader, you don't want what you're building to suffer because you're not taking the steps to govern yourself. Just remember, from leadership to legacy, we believe everyone has the potential and the responsibility to lead and to leave a legacy. So until next time, remember, you are born to lead. Thank you so much for watching.